Welcome back to part 5 of the Qedit tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about placing some more objects and going into their labels as well as some monster labels. So to begin, I'm going to start off by placing a Dominion up here. Set him to wave 1, put him right up here. And just as a note, you can change their subtype in here. So if I do subtype 1, it becomes a law Dominion. I'll show that in the 3D viewer. If I change it to subtype 2, he becomes a Dominion. So this is just another way you can change the Dominion types. This also works for like Boomas and sharks in forest and caves respectively. I'm just going to leave it as a normal Dominion. And I'll also turn it around as well. So he's in section 500. I'm also going to add an event collision so I can spawn him. I'll put the event collision right there. This will be event number 4. Make this like 20. Okay. And then we can add it in the map event.
We're also going to make when this Dominion dies, have the warp appear as well. We're also going to have it unlock a door, which is going to be used for something we're going to create later. But if you remember from the previous part, place this warp in room 93. As a result, we're going to change the appear flag for it to be 1 so that it will be unhidden when the Dominion dies.
Next, we're going to talk about the floor label 2. Put it right here. And we're also going to talk about an object called targetable object. Put that right here for now. So this floor panel, we're actually going to want to put this on the wall. So there's a few actual tricks you can use in the 3D viewer to move an object. If you hold Control and push and click, you can move it freely. X and Y plane. Or sorry, X and Z plane. If you hold Shift and click, you can move it up and down. If I hold the Z button and click, you can change the rotation on the Z axis. It's a little tricky to do this. If you do the Y axis, you can rotate it on the Y axis, and same for the X. You can change it on the X axis if you hold X and click. Oh boy, I really screwed this up, huh? There we go. Now we're gonna move that right there. And I'm just gonna move to the side here so I can get a good angle. We're gonna move the targetable object a little bit in front of it. I think that should be okay. Placing these are going to be a little bit of work to get them the way you want. This one's a little bit higher. So sometimes it might just be easier to enter your value just to make things easy. So I want them on the same Z. So that's minus 120. There we go. For the X value, you kind of want them to be 2 apart. So this is minus 108, so we want to make this one minus 106.
Spacing on a lot of objects will be determined by whether it has collision some large objects like walls or even doors can make it difficult to hit a targetable object. So you may need to often readjust these to get them in the way that you want them to. Now, if you remember before, floor panel 2 doesn't have a hitbox. So it's mostly just a visual indicator. So we're going to make this switch ID 6 because the targetable object is going to be switch ID 5. This makes the object appear, and the targetable object is going to activate switch ID 6. So when the targetable object appears and you hit it, it'll turn the switch green, and we will have that do an effect that we will create shortly. The HP is just how many hits it takes. 0 is 1 hit. Anything after is that many more. So HP of 3 means you have to hit this switch 4 times to activate it.
Next, we're going to add the object that this switch is going to activate, which is going to be long rising bridge. Here it is.
With pink high edges. And it stays in the center of the room, so you can just make it like 0, 0 for its coordinates. Pretty spot on. The label that matters here is the switch ID, which we will make 6, so that when the targetable object is hit and the switch shows that it's been activated, it will raise the bridge.
The raise speed is the speed at which the bridge raises once it's unlocked. So you can have this value anywhere between 0.1, or you can even make it just anything above 0. So you can make it 0.0001. We'll keep it at a 1 just to keep things simple. We don't want to wait forever for the bridge to rise either. Next object we're going to place is a trap, and I'm going to let pheonixmog talk about this one.
Traps are pretty versatile with what you can do with them. They definitely aren't very easy to work with. And the values aren't very intuitive at all. Like most traps, for example, in like Lost Ice Spinner, they have values that are like this. This is your standard Sega trap, essentially. All this really means is that the more trigger radius, the farther away it will activate. The blast radius is how close you have to be to have that damage actually hit you. The trap link does a few different things based on the number. -1 just means that it's in place. So after the delay in frames goes, it'll just explode. 0 is the one that makes the trap follow you over your head, and any trap link above the number 1 will activate any other traps with the same link. So if I place 2 traps with a trap link of 1, I just walk into 1 trap and it'll activate both of them. Damage is a number that will determine how much damage it will actually do. This number has a different multiplier applied to it for each difficulty. And subtype is just the type that it does. 0 by default is a damage trap. You just take the full amount of damage. If you do subtype 2 or 3, you can have elemental damage applied to it, such as shock or freeze. And delay is the amount of time in frames before it actually detonates. Status traps follow the same format. The difference, of course, is that they don't do damage, and the subtypes aren't as intuitive either. You can check all of the parameters on the Qedit wiki to adjust them to your needs. Another object we're going to place is a fog collision. This is the one that creates a ring of darkness when you're around it. We're going to make this one only show it on the bridge itself. The fog index number you can look up on the Qedit wiki. We're just going to make this one of the more visible darknesses so that we can still see a ways away. There is also another object where it ties the fog to a switch. And even though we're not going to use that, it is more likely to be used because you can turn it on and off. And from there, Kayak is going to make an item box.
So there's a few different types of item boxes you can use. Um, the common one, if you want to place like a fixed item, is going to be a fixed box type. And this will look a bit different for every area that you're in. If you want to do like just a regular box, you can do random box type. So for this example, we'll just use fixed box type because we are going to put a fixed item in here. And we're going to put this right down here. So if you want to do a fixed item, you're going to want to set both of random and full random to 0. And you're going to leave fixed item at 1. And you're going to change your item parameter. For this one, we're going to put a soul atomizer, just for an example. So the way you figure this out, take a calculator. The Windows calculator works fine. You want to then change it. You want to click this top left button here, change it to programmer mode, and you get a hex calculator right here. So the item hex for soul atomizer is 03030000. It's going to be a full 8 number hex. The first 0 doesn't get registered because hex treats the first 0 as the same as not having it there. So this is your hex item of soul atomizer. So you want to take the converted decimal number, which is this. So you can just right click on this and copy. And you can just paste it right into your object here. Oops. Yep. So this will spawn a soul atomizer. You can make boxes invisible until a specific thing happens. Like if you clear enemies and you want the boxes to appear later, you can do that with an appear flag. Otherwise, the rest of these are just, the unknowns. You don't need them. The ID you don't need either. After this, we're going to talk about some monster labels. So first we're going to look at a monest. Place him right down here. So monests are a bit unique. So start number. This is the amount of mothments it'll spit out right away. So if you have 5 here, then it'll spit out 5. I believe the most you can do is 10, but we're going to just keep it a low amount. We'll keep it at 5. The total number is the amount of total mothments it'll ever spit out. So if you make this number 5, that means it cannot spit out any more mothments once you kill these 5. So we'll leave this at 6. Just to demonstrate that it will not spit out, once I kill the 5 mothments, it will not spit out. It'll spit out 1 more, and then it won't spit out any more after that. The rotation on monest doesn't really matter either. We're also going to place 2 Hildebears.
Hildebears have a label on them that changes the way that they spawn. If it's set to 1, I believe it's the one that makes it jump spawn. If it's set to 0, it will just instantly spawn the moment that the wave starts.
So once you've set your Hildebear to your spawn type, 1 is it jumps, 0 it just randomly appears. You'll actually need an event collision for this, because these are new monsters. once you, I want this after the bridge, just so it doesn't trigger while we're on the bridge. I actually want to make this fog a bit smaller as well while we're at it. Yeah, that's actually perfect. And we can move it up a bit too. Okay, and you can actually view the fog while you're in the 3D viewer, as you can see. If you put your coordinates within the fog, you'll get the fog, and if you travel outside of it, you'll go out of the fog. So this is one way to just check the location of your fog. Now, event 5. Oh, that's not the right one.
5 is going to call the Monest, and then it's going to call wave 6, which is the 2 Hildebears. And after the Hildebears are killed, we will unlock 7.
You always want to check your map section. So if you look here, I didn't notice it right away, but it put this second Hildebear in map section 162. So I'm just going to move him over just a bit to the right. And it's being a little bit difficult. So here's a good reason to use the auto placer. So I think
the room boundaries are not always where they should be. And when you need to specifically set something somewhere, that's where the room ID placement comes in real handy.
So next, we're going to place a laser fence, and pheonixmog will talk more about this.
Laser fences act just like doors. The difference, of course, is that you have a couple different parameters you can play with. So if we see here, this one's just a blue fence. You can change the color. It supports numbers 0, 1, 2, and 3. 0 is red, 1 is blue, 2 is green, and 3 is purple. The width and depth is how wide the fence hitbox will be, which prevents you from walking past it. The switch ID is what needs to be unlocked for it to deactivate, and the model is whether it's a small or a long or an invisible laser fence. For our purposes, we're just going to keep this as a 0 model, so it blocks the doorway. As you can see, when I update the object, it updates the blue collision around it to show where it's preventing you from walking past. And a special note for anything involving locks, if you have a door that you want to always have unlocked, you need to have it set to be a -1. A lot of objects, when set to -1, will always be unlocked or always be visible. 0 is a lock, so it can be unlocked and locked, but -1 cannot be locked.
So from here, we're done placing all the objects for this part. So we're actually going to go right into testing. So you always want to make sure you save your work. Wait, I just want to make sure. Okay, we're saved. And now we're going to go test it. Okay, so now that our quest is on the server, we can go test it. And if we did everything correctly, everything should work right off the bat. Yes, I do. I'm in normal. Okay. So, as you can see, I can't shoot this switch. There's no object for me to shoot. But I did walk into the event collision. So we kill this. and nothing happened. Oh, you know why?
Oh, because
Yep, yep, okay. So this is a common mistake. So what we forgot is that this lily is in the same room as this bow nest. So to avoid something like this, we can switch this bow nest to wave number 3, or sorry, wave number 2, and then we can switch both of these bears to wave 3. And then in our view map event, we just change it there too. So this will be wave 2, and this will be wave 3. All right, and then we'll see you back in a second for when we load this again. Okay, so we're back here. We made the fixes that you saw. We're going to spawn the lily. Okay, we got our doors unlocked script. And
the HUD disappears and the movement and actions are disabled as we did from the part before.
Now if I walk up to the middle here, we should get our Belras. So we kill this one. And now if you notice the switch isn't there yet, if I kill this Belra, it's there now. So we hit this switch, door unlocks. Now if you remember, this is where we put our script collision. So if I walk forward here, the left door leads to area A, the right door leads to area B, the door in front of you leads to a warp. Now if I try walking into this script collision again, I don't trigger it because we set that register. Now we have our 2 switches here. The one on the right, if I push it, will not lock. It won't set into place. So I actually have to set the left one first, and then the right one.
It doesn't work as intended. We can still walk through it though.
Yep, so if you're quick, you can walk through it. Obviously not what we intended, but we can fix that in the next part. So we spawn our Dominion. The warp appears. So now we should be able to shoot this. Yep, see how we have a target reticle on the switch now? Okay, and the bridge is here now. It went up a little fast, so we couldn't actually see it on camera, but it did make the bridge appear. Okay, we got our fog too. Well, our fog, but it's black and white. It's black. Got a trap. They both set off at the same time. And if we get our event collision down here, what I will show off is I will kill all the Mothmans. And because the bridge and the Mothman are considered the same room, you're still able to shoot them. I believe the bridge will have collision on it though, so you wouldn't be able to cast techniques off of the bridge. And I believe it already spit out another one, so this will not spit out anything anymore. Even if I weaken it, it's just going to lay there forever unless I pipe. So next we have our Hildebears. One of them will jump in and then one of them will spawn immediately. Yep. So that's what those labels look like. And the laser fence got unlocked too. And just to check our box, got a soul atomizer that we set. And this door is also unlocked because it's been unlocked the entire time. This will be it for part 5. In the next part, we'll start talking about how to set a win condition for your quest and how to set a failure condition, as well as some other related things as how to award the player Masada. Thank you so much for watching.